Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us today in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we'll be studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Hare Krishna, please join us for Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Please join us for Mangalacharan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirye Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shamana Kirtanaha Hriyantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhatsatam Nashya Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Hare Krishna. Welcome to today's session. Studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3. Kṛṣṇa is the source of all incarnations. Please join us in the recitation of the first verse. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3. Suta uvacha jagrahe paurusham rupam bhagwan mahad adibhi sambhutam shodasha kalam Ado loka shikshaha. Sutta uvacha jagre paurusham rupam bhagwan mahadadibhi sambhutam shodasha kalam ado loka shikshaya. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sutta said, in the beginning of the creation, the Lord first expanded Himself in the universal form of the Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients for the material creation. And thus at first there was the creator of the 16 principles of material action. This was the purpose of creating the material universe. And in the purpose, Srila Prabhupada further explains the three Purusha incarnations, the Purusha avatars. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshitarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So, in the beginning of the third canto, in the third chapter of the first canto, Sutta Goswami is directly diving into describing the incarnations of Lord Shri Krishna. And sometimes this question is raised because, why are we discussing all the incarnations of Lord Shri Krishna, His appearance and His activities? So this reflects back to understanding from Bhagavad Gita. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha taktva deham punarjanma neti mameti so Arjuna. Lord Krishna is revealing to Arjuna that whoever knows my appearance and my activities, janma karma, and these are all divine appearance. So Lord is always transcendental to the three modes of material nature. He is always, on that absolute platform. Even though He appears in this material universe, it is not that He is one of us, rather He stays in His transcendental position. And a very nice example is given by Srila Prabhupada, where he says that, even the workers who are, working in a jail to manage the prisoners, for their term, are also part of that prison system, because they are, administering that prison house. So many times the devotees of the Lord, they are made responsible, as we'll be hearing in the, incarnations. Among the incarnations, there are many empowered incarnations, and also many of them are, present where Lord takes on the position for different administrative positions to be able to carry out the ruling of this material world. So these are plenary portions and portions of plenary portions of Lord Shri Krishna, who are carrying out all these activities. And Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we hear about the appearance and the activities of Lord Shri Krishna, tattvataha, in truth. So again, not covered by speculative language, not covered by our own imagination, but as it has been propagated in the parampara system, in the sampradaya, coming down in the lineage of acharyas, we hear from them, and so we accept them. And when we meditate on the form, activities, pastimes, and paraphernalia of the Lordship, it purifies us. It also lifts us to that absolute platform. And that's why when we are chanting the holy name, it is the prayer to engage in devotional service, and at the same time it is also the very devotional service and also the goal. It can itself invoke the love of Godhead. And all we have to do is raise our hand and call out, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. So that's why devotional service and the chanting of the holy name is also called sublime. And quoting Srila Prabhupada, he used to say, chant and be happy. So if you want to be happy, if you want to be freed of all the miseries, because you cannot be happy if you're not peaceful. So first step is to become peaceful. And to be peaceful, you have to be satisfied, tushti. Tushti also means renunciation. So you should renounce unwanted things and be satisfied with the position, with the situation you are in. And that ability to be able to become satisfied comes when we take to the chanting of the holy name, take to the association of the devotees, take to residing at a holy place, take to, so again, even a neophyte, as per Srila Rupa Goswami, he lists 64 processes of devotional service. Prahlad Maharaj lists 9. Then Shukdev Goswami in 11th canto add 2 more, reading and writing. And then Rupa Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion, he goes on further to add other ways you can perform devotional service. And he is listing 64 of them. And of those 64, he is saying 5 are the most potent ones. And even a neophyte, even a newcomer in Krishna consciousness, who just has this inquiry, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, why am I here? And how can I be freed? When he takes to devotional service in the very, just by engaging in any of the 5, not all 5, but even any of the 5 processes, he can experience prema, the topmost stage. So such are the blessings from the acharyas, and they are revealing this. First is chanting of the holy name. Second is reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana. So reading Srimad Bhagavatam is also very potent. And then third is deity worship. So again, when we perform deity worship, worship of the deities, and you can also worship Bhagavad Puran because it is non-different from Lord Shri Krishna. So when we talk about Lord Shri Krishna, his name, form, activities, pastimes, they are non-different. And so the Bhagavad Puran is also one of the literary incarnation. It is a literary incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna. And Srila Vyasadeva, who wrote Bhagavatam, is the empowered Shaktavesh avatar, and his description does come in this chapter. That's the third one. Fourth one is devotee association, and fifth one is residing at a dham. So if you have Srimad Bhagavatam in your home becomes a holy place. And if you are worshipping Srimad Bhagavatam, and Lord Krishna says that whoever reads Bhagavad Gita, and that also includes Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, worships me by his intelligence. So just by reading these wonderful transcendental literatures and the transcendental ecstasies of Srila Prabhupada in the form of his purports, we can experience prema in this very stage, in this very life. Even a newcomer in Krishna consciousness can experience that. So those are some of the amazing blessings. So if you want to get rid of all the miseries, we have to take to the chanting, we have to take to engagement in devotional service. So we have to make an endeavor. But it is so sublime. It is so easy. Can you warm it up? Hare Krishna. So these are amazing blessings. Now another question somebody can ask is, why is Sutta Goswami talking about Lord's appearances? And why is he starting with the creation of the material universe? So we remember from first chapter of Canto 1, questions by the sages, where sages asked 6 questions. What were these 6 questions? The first question they were asking was, and who are they asking? Sutta Goswami. They are asking Sutta Goswami. And when are they asking? So at Naimisharanya, with the onset of Kali age, they realized that the influence of Kali age is going to cause many, bad qualities to prevail in the society. So they were performing yajna, sacrifice for 1,000 years. And with this motive, when they gathered at Naimisharanya, why did they gather in Naimisharanya? Another question could be. Because when Lord Brahma created the universe, he kept the spoke at Naimisharanya. So it's a highly potent place, right? Holy place. And that's why it is said that when you are at a holy place, devotional service is, effortless. It automatically happens. Whether you want it or not, you are constantly hearing the name of the Lordship, you are constantly hearing about His glories, you are constantly seeing the devotees, you are automatically in the association of devotees. So you are in that environment. An association defines us, right? So there is a Chinese saying as well as Portuguese saying, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. So whoever we associate with or like to associate with defines who we are. And that is very important. As we can see, thieves will associate with thieves. There is a chambers of commerce normally where all the business, entrepreneurs and others, they associate. And people with like-minded, if somebody wants to do mountaineering, what would they do? They would go and join a mountaineering club where they would they will have conversation with other mountaineers so that they can go on, mountain climbing. Hare Krishna. So we associate based on the likings. And there is also another saying in English, birds of same feather fly together. And we see this in society, excuse me. So what we see is generally when we are out there, traveling, and suddenly we see someone from our township. We may not have seen that person for whole our life, we've never met him. But just because he says he's from our township, we get affinity and we become automatically great friends. And wonderfully, the same thing is also true about the mindset. When we go out and suddenly we see someone wearing, tulsi beads on their neck, right then and there, we become very joyful and we, call out to them, Hare Krishna, and they respond back. When we see someone with tilak, so there are various symbols of Vaishnavas. When we see them, those symbols, we become very happy, we become very enlightened, because that is the kind of company we want to keep, and we want to converse about Lord Shri Krishna, Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha. So Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Majjitta madgat prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Kathayantascha mam nityam. They are constantly conversing about me. And so they are, what are they feeling? Tushyanti. So tushyanti is satisfaction. Also means renouncing all other bad qualities, just focused on the current situation, that it is so pleasing. And ramanticha, and experiencing transcendental bliss. So you have to first feel satisfied so that you become peaceful, and then only you can experience happiness. How can there be happiness without peace? Can you see a disturbed person becoming happy? No, because they will constantly be disturbed and they are constantly be in anxiety, and those anxiety and the miseries is what we want deliverance from in reality. And that deliverance we get when we take to the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. So the 6 questions that the sages asked Sutta Goswami, and who are these sages? They are headed by Shaunaka Rishi, these great sages at Naimisharanya. And the first question is, what is the absolute ultimate benefit and good for everyone? So when they are referring, they are not just talking of humans, they are talking of all living entities. They are talking about birds, they are talking about aquatics, they are talking about trees, all living entities in this material universe. And Sutta Goswami, he responded to that in the 2nd chapter. He said, in the 6th and 7th verses, actually in the 6th verse itself of the 2nd chapter, sure. Save pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahetukya pratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. So he responded that the topmost occupation, of all humanity, dharma of all humanity, is by which the man can attain loving devotional service unto the Supreme Transcendental Lord, Lord Shri Krishna. And so it is highly recommended, and that's why Srila Prabhupada would make a point that remember Krishna as well, and Acharyas revealed to us. So if and we call it a smart mantra. Are you smart? If you are smart, then you would understand the meaning behind smart mantra so that you can implement it. Smartavyo satatam Vishnu vismartavyo na jatu chit sarve vidhi nishedasya yoreva kinkaraha. Smartavyo satatam Vishnu. Always remember Krishna. And vismartavyo na jatu chit. Never forget Krishna. Sarve vidhi nishedasya etayor eva kinkara. Kinkara means servants. So all other rules and regulations, prohibitions, inhibitions, all those are just subservient to these 2 rules. So these are the 2 principles that we should always keep. And Srila Prabhupada was so instructive to his disciples. He would say to the devotees that you should constantly chant Lord Krishna's name. And even between the meal, when you are, between the morsel of food as you are taking, you should not waste that time. You should chant Lord Krishna's name. And there is a beautiful story that comes of Gopal Guru, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he would go to evacuate, at that time he would hold his tongue. So there was a 9-year-old boy, Gopal. He says, "Why do you hold your tongue when you're doing?" He's like, "That is such a bad place, and my tongue is constantly chanting Harinam, and I have to hold my tongue with my teeth, otherwise it will continue chanting." And then Gopal boy said, that, "But what if death comes at that place? Because death can come at any place, at any time. Then what will happen?" And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Oh, this is wonderful," and picked him up and put him on his lap. He said, "This is Gopal Guru." He's telling us that we should chant irrespective of where we are. So there is no fast rules and regulations to the chanting of the holy name. Though that's the glory of holy name, that it can not just deliver us, but there are no strong rules and regulations. Because otherwise, if you're doing fire sacrifice, you need to know the mantra very well, the sacrificial arena should be very nice, the samagri that's being used is very nice, all the host and the pujaris and the brahmanas, they should all be very purely, dressed up, as well as, completely purified, and you do the achman to purify yourself. So there are 6 types of various kind of purifications that's required to just perform a simple fire sacrifice. But with the chanting of the holy name, there is no such restriction. All you have to do is chant in a humble mood, chant with that mood of tolerance that yes, I am in the situation you have placed me, which is perfect situation for me at this right place, and please engage me. I'm not desiring to get out of this situation, I'm only desiring to engage in your devotional service. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we become the order suppliers, as the 6 Goswamis teach us by their own examples, that we should be the order suppliers. And it is very interesting that when we go out on book distribution, and we go out, again now there is virtual book distribution going on, where we are sending, this is Gita Jayanti month, and we send emails to all our friends and families to say, hey, this is a time where Gita is on sale. Please come, order. And if you can't order, means sponsor them and we will distribute on your behalf. And so this is a time where Shastra Dan is of great value and we should all honor that. So again, if you are looking to sponsor some books, please send us a comment. We will put you in contact with a devotee in your area so that they can supply you the books. If you are looking to sponsor and you cannot distribute it, then we can make sure that these books are distributed. And we generally go out to universities and schools to distribute these books, and virtually, even though that is there, these books are mailed out on a regular basis so that people can get this wonderful gift, the transcendental gift, which contains the name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. And we all know, it's given in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's given in Padma Purana, it's given in Varaha Purana, that whoever donates Srimad Bhagavatam on the full moon day, Dasharat Purnima, at that time on a golden throne, then his return back home, back to Godhead, is guaranteed. So if you missed out this year's Sharat Purnima, don't worry, there will be another one coming next year. But any time is auspicious to engage in Shastra Dan. So, and then the second question they asked is, what is the essence of all scriptures, the sages at Naimisharanya? So Sutta Goswami, he responded, Vasudeve Bhagavata Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnana Cha Yada Hetukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So we talked about this, that devotional service, Bhakti Devi, she has two sons. One is knowledge, Gyan, another one is detachment, renunciation or Tushti. So, one automatically attains, with the mercy of the mother, the association of her sons, knowledge and detachment from the world. So this is the material world, from the lust, if we want to really dive into depth. Then, third question was, why did Lord Krishna appear himself? So why did he appear in this, material universe? And that was also given in the second chapter, the 34th verse. Bhavayate satvena lokan ve loka bhavanaha lilavatan deva tiryan radishu. Thus the Lord of the universes maintains all planet inhabited by demigods, man and lower animals. Right? Deva tiryan radishu. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. So Lord comes to reclaim, take back home with him all the souls who are in pure goodness. Pure goodness is, transcendental to the three modes of material nature. It's not just mode of goodness, it's further pure, it's completely above the relativity. Sthit Pragya stage, one who is Atma Ram. So such a person is reclaimed. So Lord himself comes to reclaim such souls when he appears in various incarnations. And in this chapter is the question that Sutta Goswami is answering, three questions. So one was partially answered in the second chapter, but it's fully answered in this chapter. So here the question number 4 is, please describe to us the pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. As why did he appear in the womb of Devaki as son of Vasudeva? So that has been described in this chapter. And we also know that this is the second part. So first part in the third question we already covered, Paritranaya sadhunam, to protect the devotees. Now vinashaya cha dushkritam. So this is where Lord comes to deliver the burden of the earth. And then the fifth question is, please tell us about the appearance and purpose of the Lord's various incarnations. And then there was a hidden question in there by the sages that please also, describe the essence of the teachings of the acharyas, of previous spiritual masters. And then last but not the least is the question number 6, that they are asking, where has the religion gone? Whose shelter has religion taken? Who is protecting
dharma in this Kali age, when Lord Krishna, he has returned back home, back to Godhead. Because Kali age, we already talked about the symptoms of Kali age, right? Prainalpayusha kalavasmin yuge janaha manda sumanda matyo mandbhagyo pradutaha. So in this Kali age, men are short-lived, 100 years of age, and it's actually reducing. And as Kali age will progress, it will further reduce to 15 to 20 years only. So you can imagine the future generations are going to have less and less age. And Kalavasmin Yukejana. And people, they just need a little spark, just need a reason. Sometimes they go out like finding a reason. That's the meaning of Duryodhana, who was expert in finding differences to create a quarrel. So Kalavasmin Yukejana. So Duryodhana is born in this Kali age, just Kali age personified. So he is triggering this, and everyone gets influenced. So how are you safe from his influence? When we take to the shelter of Lord Shri Krishna and hearing name, form, activities, pastimes, remembering them, glorifying them, they are all on the same transcendental level. And in the very first verse, Sutta Goswami is starting with the creative impetus. He is saying, why did Lord Krishna create this world? What was the purpose? So that purpose has been also stressed in this chapter. And of course, whose shelter has dharma, whose shelter has religion taken. So we'll get to hear about the various aspects. Manda is lazy, so Manda Matyo is not, Sumanda Matyo is very little intelligent, less intelligent. Srila Prabhupada used to say, poor fund of knowledge. And Manda Bhagya, unlucky. People are unlucky in this age. And Upraduta, and they're constantly disturbed. It is very interesting that when we go out, sometimes we meet people and they say, you know what, if you have something that can give me peace, then I would take it. We would say, yes, Bhagavad Gita, if you read Bhagavad Gita, you get a lot of peace. You understand, some important questions in this life. Why am I here? What am I doing? Why are there miseries? And it's wonderful that once I was going around and there was an old man. He said, but my problem is different. I'm disturbed with all these thoughts, and I just want these thoughts to stop and I should just get some sleep. I'm facing insomnia. So the interesting response that came out was that you read Bhagavad Gita and it will provide you a solution. And we provided him contact to come to the temple as well as to come to our Bhagavad Gita class every Saturday that we hold as Namhata at our home. And he came and he's like, I can't believe this. I read Bhagavad Gita and I slept like a baby. And as you can understand, babies, they sleep very nicely. So it was very interesting to hear. And then his association, and he and his wife, they were coming regularly for quite some time. His wife is no more, and with the pandemic and other things, we haven't seen him for quite some time, since March. So again, we hope everyone is doing well, and we definitely want to stay in touch. So at the same time, we see that this association is not just beneficial for others who are coming to Krishna consciousness, but also is beneficial for us to learn lessons from others, that how they are experiencing, because we cannot have experiences of all kind of variety of things, all kind of variety of miseries. But we can get practical experience when we see Bhagavad Gita helping someone, when we see someone taking shelter of Lord Shri Krishna and engaging in proper study of Bhagavad Gita, proper study of Bhagavatam, how they are getting elevated. And we have seen sometimes people who are very arrogant, very proud of their position, suddenly turning out to be very humble personalities, and they're very respectful personalities. And see, the first thing you want to do is just embrace them when they come to that level, because it's so welcoming. We see that Lord Krishna is very merciful to such personalities. Actually, Lord Krishna says he is the best friend, he's our best friend, he's a well-wisher, and he's a benefactor. Surhida Sarva Bhutanam. He is not saying just of human beings, but Sarva Bhutanam. Again, all kind of living entities. Aquatics, birds, trees, whatever you can think of, the 8.4 million types of species. So it is very enriching to see and experience in our life itself as how people are benefiting. And his wife when they were starting to come, when they were attending our Namhata back in 2007, 2008, they started coming. At that time, she shared that actually she was at the airport, and she used to be Vice Chancellor of Chandigarh University. And she said that actually the first Bhagavad Gita they found was actually in a trash bin. Somebody had thrown Bhagavad Gita in a trash bin, and they were surprised it was brand new Bhagavad Gita somebody had thrown them. So they picked it up from the trash and they studied it on their flight. And they really loved how simply Srila Prabhupada had made such deep topics so easy for people to understand, so simple English that even a child, even a 5th grade kid can easily understand. So that's what also inspired them to take to Bhagavad Gita study. So again, and husband, he started studying a little later because he wanted to understand how can he get rid of that, always awake, not able to sleep situation. And then when we revealed, he's like, we always had Bhagavad Gita, but then I didn't pick it up till you guys told. And when I started, reading Bhagavad Gita, the other copy, so we encouraged him to take his own copy. And he said that when he had his own copy and his wife, she had her own copy, they would read it together, taking turns. And it was very nice because they had been thinking of having quality time together as a family. All the kids, they were already grown up. They actually had their own grown-up kids. So they were, all over the US and some in India as well. So their relatives were all over the place. And these two were looking after retirement, how to keep engaged. So this was a very nice way they could engage in reading Bhagavad Gita and so forth. So such wonderful experiences when we hear, we see the mercy of the Lord working so miraculously, right? And this is no wonder because it is transcendental knowledge. And here Lord Kṛṣṇa is revealing. So in this chapter, Sutta Goswami, when he's starting with that creation of the material universe. Now somebody could say, why are you talking about creation of the material universe? Because I want to hear about Kṛṣṇa, I want to hear about Rasa Leela. So sometimes people, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport so many times, unscrupulous persons, they directly want to jump to the 10th canto, and especially to that 29th or 33 chapters where Gopi Gita and Rasa Leela is being described. But that is the topmost level. So we have to take to the advice given by the acharyas, given by Srila Vyasa himself, that and there is a reason he created 9 cantos so that we can step by step develop our understanding. Now think of it. You have a child in kindergarten and you say, what, in 10th grade they cover all the topics that's covered in 9th grade, 8th grade, 7th grade and so forth, so I'll just put my kid in the 10th grade. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't make sense because the child doesn't have understanding. Yes, the 10th grade subject matters include all the understanding of 9th grade and below, including some of the advanced course aspects, some that are in 10th grade. But a child is not qualified. But sometimes we feel that such is the case, that people just want to know. And then when we gave this example on one of the occasions, some of the folks in our Namhata, they basically said, no, this is not right because we are qualified. So we said, okay, so you could do anything. They said, yes, we can do anything. So there was, 4th of July, we normally have various Air Force centers open. So we kind of said, let's go on a field trip. And we took them to, Andrew Air Force Base in Maryland. And so there, we asked, and got permission from authorities, and we took them to one of the aircrafts. We said, we all know that this aircraft flies, right? They said, yes, we know that this flies. I said, please fly it. And at that time they were like just flabbergasted. They're like, I don't know how to fly. I said, so how would you know how to fly? They said, first of all, I need to understand what the mechanics are, right? I have to properly understand it. And I said, if somebody just tells you what the mechanics are at the top level, this is how radar works, this is how altitude works, will that teach you? No, they said, no, I still have to understand the mechanics. How do mechanics work? So somebody says, okay, just push this, it will increase the speed, it will move the wings. Would that work, the mechanics? They said, no, I need to understand the principles and values behind it. I need to know what is the purpose of different elements that fly this airplane. I need to know the principles like the Bernoulli's principles, where the kinetic energy, potential energy, all those various types of energies, the sum of all those energies is constant. So that's the knowledge principle. Because of the concave shape of the wings, the air pushes it higher. So I said, oh, now you're understanding that you're coming to the elementary level. So first you should be able to relate to what you know. Then you will be able to grow to the level what you don't know, but be able to understand it with relation to what you know and rise higher to the transcendental matter. They said, yes, that's exactly what it is. And this is what Srimad Bhagavatam is doing. Srila Vyasadeva has laid it down with respect to things that we know. So that things that we can see in this material world, we can relate them with Lord Shri Krishna. Smartavya Satatam Vishnu. Always remember Krishna, because then we'll be seeing Krishna in everything. And Maya means that which is not. That we think is separate from Krishna and is meant for our sense gratification. But if we see everything in relationship with Krishna, we would not be thinking of our sense gratification. Rather, we would be thinking of associating it with Lord Shri Krishna. Right? Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyate. So that is the topmost devotee, service, devotional services, that without regarding to the various positions associated with the body, not on the material platform, we would be engaging in devotional service of Lord Shri Krishna as he desires. Rishikena Rishikesha. So Rishikesha means the master of the senses. So when we serve the master of the senses, for his pleasure we perform the service, all our senses are fully satisfied. And that is the right way of serving. And that's why it's called Uttama Bhakti, pure devotional service in that particular state. Anya Bhilashita Shunyam describes the pure devotional service as well. This describes how, what platform we have to rise above the material platform. Sarvopadi Vanirputtam, to give up all varieties of upadhis that we have associated with the body. And we talked about in Bhagavad Gita that Arjuna was bewildered when he saw all his friends and families gathered, all his family gathered on the battlefield, because he was thinking at the bodily level. And he forgot his duty, his prescribed duty, his swadharma, because he was at that bodily level. And then Lord Krishna, when he started speaking in 12, 13, 14 verse itself, he said that actually you are not the body, you are the spirit soul. He aligned his swadharma with his sanatan dharma and said that you become sthit pragya, that you become Atmaram. You understand that your duty should be performed irrespective of any relative aspect, because relativity is a characteristic of material world. But on the absolute platform, the relativity doesn't exist. Only transcendental bliss exists. There is no, dualities at the transcendental platform, happiness or distress, honor or dishonor, profit or loss. All these dualities you leave behind, heat and cold, hot and cold, and so forth. So here Sutta Goswami is starting that in the beginning, Lord, he expanded as the Purusha incarnation, and so which Purusha incarnation? So there are 3 Purusha incarnations being referred. But before we jump into this, Srila Prabhupada, he has provided, insight in his purpose to the 6 categories of Lord's incarnations. And the first 3 Purusha incarnations refer to the Purusha avatar, and that is for the creation, maintenance and annihilation of these material universes, not just material universe, but all material universes. And then the second category of incarnations are Leela avatar, right? So when you talk about Matsya avatar, Varaha avatar, Nrsimhadev, so all these are Leela avatars. Then there are Guna avatar, and then Manvantaras. So the various Manus who appeared are part of the Manvantara avatars. And then Yuga avatars. So again, there are Yuga avatars, Satyug, Dwapar, Treta Yuga, there are Yuga avatars. And then there are Shaktavesh avatars. So many Shaktavesh avatars are there. Like Devashi Narad, he is an empowered. Shaktavesh means one who has been empowered by Lord Shri Krishna. So Devashi Narad is a Shaktavesh avatar, Vyasadeva is a Shaktavesh avatar, Parshuram, he is a Shaktavesh avatar. So these are the 6 categories of incarnations. And he is starting from the creation of the material universes. And Srila Prabhupada describes very nicely that, just like when you spot a car, and the president's car, or the prime minister's car, it has some symbols that signifies, it has the national flags, it has a light glowing on it, it has, people ahead of him, behind him. So you know that that particular car belongs to the president or the prime minister or to that, important authority. So first he is trying to show us that this Virat Rup, which is the material world universe that appears, is like that car of the prime minister. So Srila Prabhupada says that Virat Rup that's been described here in this first canto refers to that car of the prime minister. So we can relate to things that we know of this world. And then we would be able to rise higher to the next level. So in the second canto he is saying Vishwarup incarnation, that has been described further. So the first is Mahavishnu. Who is this Vishnu? He is Karna Dakshai Vishnu. He is lying down in the Karana ocean, Karana Sagar. Karan also means cause, right? So Karan ocean is causal ocean. So he's lying down in the causal ocean, and from the pores of his body and from his breathing, many universes, as he exhales, they are coming out. And they sustain for some time, and then when he inhales, they are merging back in. So they are all coming out and they are merging back in. This is a constant process going on. So the universes that we feel is there for trillions and trillions of years are there only for the duration of a breathing of Mahavishnu. Now that is surprising. Then when all these universes are created, Lord expands further. As Garbhodakshai Vishnu, he enters into each universe individually. In each universe, he lies down in the Garbhodak ocean. So in our small universe, there are Garbhodak oceans. So the waters are there at the bottom. Where Garbhodakshai Vishnu, he is lying down on Anantashesh. And from his navel sprouts a lotus. And on this lotus, Brahma is born. Now how Brahma comes to the realization that what his position is, what his purpose is in second canto. And then further, as Lord Brahma has been provided all the material for creation by Garbhodak Vishnu. So again, at that time, all of the incarnations that occur in this material universe are coming through Garbhodak Vishnu. However, there are some incarnations that are coming from Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa as well, who is always in Goloka, Vrindavan, spiritual realm. So here, Lord Brahma, he is doing secondary creation. Mahavishnu has already done. And further, Lord expands as Kshirodakshai Vishnu. And he is present in every living entity's heart, even in every atom, and even spaces in the voids between atoms. So this is super soul. We are talking about super soul. So Kshirodakshai Vishnu is the super soul. And he's at the Kshir Sagar. And when Lord Brahma, in the beginning of the 10th canto, he is trying to find solution for the burden, to relieve the burden of Mother Earth, he takes all the demigods at the shore of the Kshir Sagar. Where Kshirodakshai Vishnu is at, in the Kshir Sagar Anantashesh, and he is singing the glories, and then he's praying to the, to the Lordship, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, and Kshirodakshai Vishnu responds to him from his heart. And again, there are cases where Garbhodakshai Vishnu in the second canto responds to Lord Brahma through the heart as well. So these are the three Mahavishnus. And these Vishnus are actually responsible for managing all the affairs in this material universe. And all the incarnations that are appearing in each of the material universe is coming from the individual Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And together when we call them, we don't call them Supreme Personalities of Godhead. They are Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are all Vishnu Tattva, and so they are non-different from Kṛṣṇa. So they are plenary portion or portions of the plenary portions of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. Now this is described as well in 28th verse of this third chapter. So when Sutta Goswami is describing the various incarnations, as we'll be discussing. He also describes that after all these incarnations, he says, Ete chams kalahapam sa Kṛṣṇastu bhagwan swayam indrari vyakulam loke mridayanti yuge yuge. Ete chams kalahapam sa. All these incarnations, all these plenary portions and portions of the plenary portions that we are discussing, that he has described in this chapter, are there, but they are only portions of who? Of Lord Shri Krishna. And Lord Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the essence. Krishna tu Bhagwan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Loke. Indra Ari, enemy of Indra. Ari means enemy, enemy of Indra. Vyakulam Loke. When the enemies of Indra, when the enemies of the demigods, the demons, when they create havoc in this material universe, Mridayanti Yoge, he appears again and again to protect the devotees, to annihilate the miscreants. Paritranaye sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the devotees and to annihilate the miscreants and to re-establish the principles of religion, Lord appears again and again. Now if he is re-establishing the principles of religion, then after he returns back home, back to Godhead, the question arises, whose shelter has the religion taken? So we'll be answering that. But let me quickly cover the various incarnations that Sutta Goswami lists. Now it is very interesting that sometimes people get bewildered. They say, no, there are only Dash Avatar, there are only 10 incarnations of the Lordship. Sutta Goswami may not be speaking right. Well, remember first that Vyasadeva wrote Bhagavatam at the maturity of his age. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called Bhagavatam as Amal Purana, a faultless literary incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna. And so it cannot contain faults. Yes, when we try to read it, we may have faults in understanding, so that's why Acharyas have provided their commentaries, so even that fault will be taken care of. And Sutta Goswami himself saying, Krishna tu Bhagwan Swayam. And when people ask that how could that be true, well, there is also another reference given by Lord Brahma himself in Brahma Samhita. He is saying, Ishvara Paramaha Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Lord Krishna is the Parama Ishvara. So he is Parameshwar. That's why we also call him Parameshwar. And his body is full of eternity, knowledge and bliss. And Anadir Adir Govinda. He is the oldest person. And there is no one else, Anadi. There is no one else who is older than him. So when he existed in the beginning, nothing else was existing, as we'll also hear in Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. So, and Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. So there is cause for the creation of this material universe. He is the cause of all causes. So we may see Purusha avatars, the 3 Vishnus, causing this material universe to be created, maintained and annihilated, but it's originally being done by Lord Shri Krishna. So he is the cause as why this is happening. And people sometimes give reference that there are these 10 avatars, right? And it is very interesting that the kind of theories they present that, first, like the scientists say, there were aquatics somehow. They came out from because of the chemical reaction, and the fishes came, the aquatics first came. And the aquatics were able to transform, as part of the Darwin's theory, they were able to adapt, when the land appeared, they were able to somehow crawl onto the land. So that's how, so the first avatar is Matsya avatar, identifying its fishes. Then the next one is Kurma avatar, because we know that the turtle is amphibian, it can stay in water as well as on the land. And then the fourth one is, they are saying that Narsimha Deva avatar is signifying that first there were beasts, right? Lions and animals and other kind of beasts there. And then the fourth incarnation is Vaman Dev, because humans were just coming up, so they were like as major. So Vaman Dev is signifying. It's very interesting when you hear these theories. These are all fake theories, means they're just speculating. But it's very interesting as how they're adjusting everything, all the Lord's appearances in as per their liking. And they're providing a very interesting sequence. And when we read Srimad Bhagavatam with them, they say, oh, I didn't realize that's the case. Because even though, and I'll tell you why they are referring to the 10 avatars as well. And then they are saying, okay, after Nrsimhadev, Vamadev appeared. And after Vamadev, Bhrigupati, he is Parshuram, he is with a Farsa. So this is like in the early prehistoric ages when people were making axes and spears. So that's representing that, Bhrigupati is having this skin, deer skin on his body, and he looks like a Adivasi, Vedbhusha, like he's just like a aborigine, the one people who live in the forest. So, and then Lord Ramchandra, he's the seventh incarnation. Then comes actually eighth, and then comes Lord Kṛṣṇa. He's also now appearing as, and then comes Lord Buddha in Kali age, and then Kalki. So these are like the progressive age, and so we are progressing in the right direction, and everything is advancing. Things were very prehistoric. This is the reason they give. And where do they get these ideas? From mental speculation. And the Dashavatara actually come from Jadev Goswami's Dashavatara Stotra. So when he is singing this song, and he is describing each of these avatars, so he is giving this sequence. But in reality, the appearance of these incarnations is not in this sequence. It is in different orders. So trying to put it in this sequence is itself wrong, because the sequence is very off, because Nrsimhadev avatar happened to kill Hiranyakashipu. That was much earlier. Varaha avatar, I missed it. So again, Varaha avatar who killed Hiranyaksha. So again, people gave different kind of theories, but that happened in Satyuga, and then Matsya avatar happened much later. And then we know that Kurma avatar happened when Bali Maharaj was, when the demigods had gone to negotiate with Bali Maharaj to do Samudra Manthan at that time. So that was much later, but is listed much earlier in Dashavatara prayers. And Bali Maharaj was son of Virochana, who was son of Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj was the son of Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu was killed by Lord Nrsimhadev. So all these speculative theories are there. And it was in the 13th century where Jadev Goswami, he appeared and he wrote the Dashavatara Stotra, so people get confused. However, here, let's look at the bona fide scripture, Amal Purana, faultless literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. And here, Sutta Goswami, after describing the the Purusha avatars, he starts describing other avatars, and he says that there were Kumaras. First there were the Kumaras, the 4 sons of Brahma. Now it's very interesting in the purport. Srila Prabhupada said, yes, the Purusha avatars he has described, then the Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, they are also, incarnations. Brahma is a living entity, like you and me. So as a living entity, he is a Jiva Tattva. Lord Vishnu is Vishnu Tattva. So, and many times in many universes, when for creation, for secondary creation in the material universe, when Lord cannot find another living entity qualified to hold the position of Brahma, he appears as Brahma. When he doesn't find somebody to hold the position of annihilation, he becomes Rudra. He takes that position. To annihilate this material universe, time and again, Rudra, Lord Shiva, he is responsible. Now, Lord Brahma is Jiva Tattva, and Lord Vishnu is Vishnu Tattva, but Lord Shiva is Shiva Tattva. Srila Prabhupada describes that, he is not Jiva Tattva, he is actually a category between Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva, because he is in association with Maya, right? His consort is Parvati Devi, Durga Devi. So she is Mahamaya. So he is, because of that association, he is Shiv Tattva. So even though appearing to be in the same category, the Vishnu Tattva and Shiv Tattva are not the same. And it is very difficult to describe Shiv Tattva, and Jiva Goswami has given elaborate commentary to understand Shiv Tattva. Now here, what is the difference between Vishnu Tattva and Shiva Tattva? Srila Prabhupada describes in the purport, just like, curd is the same category as milk, but once, in the contact of acid or tamarind, milk converts into curd, it cannot be used in place of milk. It has its own purpose, right? And you cannot turn curd back into milk. So it's not possible to convert Shiva Tattva back to Vishnu Tattva, because he is his own special category. And Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. We'll be hearing a lot about Lord Shiva in Srimad Bhagavatam, his glories as well. So here, the 4 Kumaras, when they were born, they decided to stay as 5-year-old children. They had taken to ascetic life as Brahmanas, and so they were empowered. Empowered incarnations means Shaktaveshavta. So in that 6th category that we're talking about. Then the 2nd incarnation, Sutta Goswami is saying that he appeared as Varaha to deliver the earth. So what had happened? Hiranyaksh. Hiranya means gold, Aksh means eye. So the younger brother of Hiranyakashipu, who had taken birth, it was the first birth of Jaya Vijaya after they were cursed by the Chatur Kumaras. So it's everything is intertwined. So, he appeared, the younger one, Vijaya appeared as Hiranyaksh and Jaya appeared as Hiranyakashipu. This is in Satyuga. So sometimes people say, if you were born in Satyuga, people were so potent. Yeah, when there were demons also, like Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksh. And they were causing havoc on the Brahmanas and the devotees. So Hiranyaksh was always looking for gold. He was looking for treasure. And he was so attracted to gold that he causes the earth to become imbalanced and fall out of orbit and goes into the Netherlands and fall down in the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. So we talked about Garbhodak Shaivish. So at that time, Lord appeared as Varahadev. Hiranyaksh had actually received a boon from Lord Brahma and enlisted all kind of living entities that cannot kill him, starting from the demigods all the way down to the end. But he did not list Varaha, boar, because he thought that boar is such a dirty animal. It didn't occur to him that he should even consider. So Lord, he appeared as boar, and he lifted the earth from the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean and passed on his potency. So when he let earth float on the Garbhodak ocean, it did not again sink, because the potency had been passed by Varahadev. And then he fought with Hiranyaksh and killed him. And of course we also hear as from Varahadev and Bhumi Devi, the presiding deity of earth, from them there was a child. We also know him as Narakasura or Bhaumasura. So that's there. And then third, Sutta Goswami is saying the 3rd incarnation is Devashi Narad, the demigod, the sage among the demigods. So he is one of the demigods, but he is the saintly, he has transcendental body. In his previous birth, he was a maidservant's son. So sometimes people say, oh, maidservant's son can get transcendental body, yes. But also understand, in the previous birth to being a maidservant's son, he was actually a Gandharva, a heavenly, celestial being. So he was cursed to become a maidservant's son. So he was cursed to become a Shudra. So Devashi Narad, he assimilated all the knowledge and he provided to us in transcendental subject matters like Panchratrika. Now, Panchratrika Vidhi also comes from Panch is 5, Ratrika is nights. So Devashi Narad actually received this knowledge from who? Lord Shiva. And that is what he assimilated as Panchratrika, so that we can learn how to worship the Lord Shiva. Then the 4th incarnation is as Nar Narayan Rishi, twin sons of Murti and Dharma. And we talked about Sahastra Kavach Rakshas, right? Dambodbhava, his story as how, Murti Devi, she, and, to satisfy the various, sages and people living in the northern part of India back in those days, that they were being tormented by this Dambodbhava, Dambodbhava Rakshas. She meditated on Lord Vishnu and finally got Nar Narayan Rishi as her sons, who are at Badrika Ashram even today. But you need the eyes to see them. Sometimes people say, can you show me God? Srila Prabhupada was being challenged so many times. Can you show me God? The important question is we should ask, do I have eyes to see the God? Because once you get the eyes, then you can see the God, and you can see God in everything. For that, reading Srimad Bhagavatam is highly recommended, and to be able to engage in the right mode in reading Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting is highly recommended. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, Sutta Goswami is describing various incarnations. I'll quickly list some of these incarnations. So, the fifth incarnation is Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti and Kardama Muni. So, his description also comes. So, all these incarnations are going to be described at length later on, because it's not that here he has given the answer that the sage Suya, who is he referring to, it's not listed. He's not calling out the name of the Lordship. This is not other than Avaduta Brahman, who gives instruction to King Yadu, from whom Yadavas are known, and Yadu Vamsha is where Lord Krishna himself appeared. So, in the Vamsha of Yadu, and also Prahlad Maharaj received instructions, and his name is Lord Dattatreya, so son of Atri and Anusuya. They had two other sons. One was partial expansion of Lord Brahma, who is known as Soma, the presiding deity of moon. Another one is Durvasa Muni, yes, sage Durvasa, who gets angry very quickly, but he also blesses, like he blessed Queen Kunti, to be able to invoke any of the demigods and get blessings as a son, from that demigod. Seventh incarnation as Yajna, and when Lord appeared as Yajna, there was no Indra, and the demons were causing havoc. So Lord Yajna became the Indra. So that's why there is also the peace formula verse in Bhagavad Gita calls out to Yajna Purusha. Bhoktaram Yajnatapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suruhidam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. So this is called peace formula verse, where he is saying Bhoktaram Yajnatapasam. I am the beneficiary of all the sacrifices. So even though sometimes we are making sacrifices in the name of one of the demigods, like Goddess Durga or Lord Shiva, or Indra or Surya, Vivaswan, the sun god, all these are actually indirect worship, as we hear in Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna reveals these are for less intelligent people, because they do not know that all the potencies that, all the blessings that they are asking is actually coming from Lord Shri Krishna. These are just the administrator in middle, who are becoming the media through which the mercy is flowing. That's why it is said again and again by the Acharyas that the mercy of the Lordship flows through his devotees. And we should understand it rightly and seek the mercy, but not in a way to become lustful, rather in a way to become devotees, to love the God, to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, to serve Shri Shri Radha Krishna. So that should be the mode. And then the eighth incarnation was King Rishabh, who showed by his way how to lead a life filled with sacrifice, penances, austerities, and charity. And then the ninth incarnation is King Prithu, again a Shaktavish avatar. And King Prithu, he started the cultivation, the farming, the agriculture aspects, with which the earth looked very beautiful and all the humanity is very satisfied. So when he established that, we are reminded of the third chapter in Bhagavad Gita, where Lord is saying that there is a perfect arrangement being made by him between the demigods and the humans, so that we can collaborate with each other and both sides can be very happy and peaceful and continue to progress spiritually. And then after King Prithu, Sutta Goswami says that the 10th incarnation was the fish, Matsya avatar, that saved Vaivaspata Manu. So Vaivaspata Manu in his previous life was King Satyavrata. So he was saved in that life by the Matsya avatar. So that has been described. And the 11th is the Kurma avatar, who acted as a pivot for the Mandrachala hill, when the demigods and demons, they gathered together to churn the ocean to get the nectar. And the 12th incarnation is Dhanvantari. From Dhanvantari, we get the blessings of medicines to remove various kind of physical ailments. So, and he is the one who appeared from the ocean carrying the pot of nectar, Amrit Kalash. That's what he was carrying. And the 13th incarnation was the Mohini Murti, and she appeared to allure all the demons so that she can distribute. So this is another Lord Vishnu taking the form, incarnation of Mohini Murti, to distribute the nectar, the amrit, so that to the demigods, so they become immortal, and not to just allure them. The demons, Bali Maharaj and his party, they were just distracted by the beauty of Mohini Murti. And so much so sometimes people say, oh, so he only attracted demons. Well, afterwards, Lord Shiva, he also got attracted. And together they had a son. So that's another story. Then 14th incarnation, so again, Varaha's avatar came much earlier. Now here is Narasimha avatar, who killed Hiranyakashipu, the demon king, father of Prahlad Maharaj, who was he was anger personified. He was constantly looking because he felt that Lord Vishnu had appeared as Varahadev and had killed his brother by trick, so he was constantly looking. And then the 15th avatar is Lord Vaman Dev. Vaman Dev as the 12th son of Aditi and Kashyapa Muni. Kashyapa Muni, and Aditi and Kashyapa Muni, they had, so he was the younger brother of Indra. Indra is the 11th son of Aditi. The first son of Aditi is Vivaswan. So that's why he is also known as Aditya. So all the sons of Aditis are called Adityas. And then Sage Kashyapa has another wife, Diti, who's the real sister of Aditi, the younger sister of Aditi. And all her sons are known as Daityas. Diti's sons are called Daityas. So here we see even a dynasty is coming from mother's side. With the mother's name, the dynasties have been identified. That's why we call out Daityaraj Bali Maharaj Ki Jai, because he shows Atma Nivedanam, the topmost way of, the devotional service, the process. He is glorified for that. And then Bhrigupati, this is Parshuram, who was a Shaktavesh avatar, not a Yuga avatar. He was a Shaktavesh avatar, and he's identified as 16. Then 17 is Shri Vyasdev himself, Shri Kṛṣṇa Dvapanya Vyasdev, the father of Shukdev Goswami, son of Satyavati and Parashar Muni. He assimilated all the Vedas and he wrote them, and he split the Vedas into multiple sections as well as Puranas and Samhitas. He provided all that, and Srimad Bhagavatam is also the author of Srimad Bhagavatam. 18th incarnation is Lord Ramchandra. This is from Ramayana. The reference comes where he, goes over to the Ceylon, to Sri Lanka, and kills the demon, Rāma. Rāma was a Brahman. However, he had left his profession, and he was actually the second incarnation of Jai Vijay as Ravan, and Vijay became Kumbhakaran, Jai became Ravan. Then 19th incarnation is Lord Balram. So Lord Balram, even though his first incarnation from Lord Shri Krishna has been listed here as 19th incarnation because he appeared for a specific purpose. And the 20th incarnation is Lord Krishna to deliver the burden of the earth. So they had a purpose. They appeared to deliver the burden of the earth. So this is a reference also coming for Sankarshan and Vasudev. So it is very important. Acharyas explain that these are the references coming from Sankarshan and Vasudev. And Lord Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ete chams kalaha pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Loke Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. So Lord Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada used to give a very beautiful example. So if you have one lighted candle and then you have many candles just like this lighted candle, so they're in existence. But when you light with this original candle, other candles, they have exactly the same potency as this candle. And so you can have many candles. However, in incarnations, sometimes analogies are there to help us understand, but we cannot call them equal to the original aspect, subject matter that we are studying. They help us understand. So that is also something we'll be covering little later. So Lord Krishna to deliver the burden of the earth, and then the next incarnation 21st is Lord Buddha as the son of Anjana in Gaya Kshetra, and he, disregards Vedas with a purpose. It is not that Vedas are wrong. It was at the coming of the Kali age, people did not have qualification to be able to chant the mantras, to be able to perform fire sacrifices as it is instructed in the Vedas. So to simplify it, to stop all the animal killing in the name of Vedas, in the name of religion that was going on, Lord Buddha said, I disregard Vedas because it's not the Vedas, it is people who are not qualified. So the condition was getting more and more miserable of this material world, and he wanted to take us out of this misery. So Lord appeared as Lord Buddha to stop all that animal killing. Jiva Tattva, that's one of the dharmas. So he propagated that message. Because one of the important things is when you're performing a fire sacrifice, one of the qualifications is when you perform the test of mantra is that you chant the mantra, and when you sacrifice the animal immediately gets a human body and it walks out from the sacrificial fire. Now today, if you go for any of the fire sacrifices where animals are slaughtered, you would not see any personality coming. That means they are not chanting mantra. The 6 kind of cleanliness, that is not being maintained. So it is not for the current age, and also that's why in Treta Yuga fire sacrifices were there. And then he's talking finally the 22nd incarnation is Kalki Avatar, who will appear at the juncture of the end of Kali age with the coming of Satyuga. So reading and chanting and remembering about the Lord and His incarnation is a sure short way to remove all kind of miseries, as we talked about. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. And here that's what we are discussing. And the 27th verse, after describing, his Sutta Goswami at Naimisharanya is revealing that all the rishis, the Manus, the demigods, now he is collecting everything. And the descendants of Manus, who are especially powered up plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. And this also includes Prajapati, like Kashyapa Muni or Daksha and so many other personalities. So these are empowered incarnations of the Lordship, because they have been given those responsibilities, and sometimes people refer to those responsibilities as positions. So they are administering or they are carrying out their duties in that given responsibilities, and they have been given potencies, they have been provided potencies. Now, all the living entities, and we also heard about how Lord Brahma is also one of the living entities. So it is described that we living entities, we have various potencies, and if we become full in all these potencies, so Lord Brahma and the living entities, we have up to 50 potencies that we can really become full in. So when the living entities become full in all these 50 physical principal attributes, so these are principal attributes, there are many sub attributes, but the principal attributes, if we become full, then we can become Brahma of a universe. But we cannot become Lord Shiva or Lord Vishnu or Lord Kṛṣṇa. Why? Because they have many other principal attributes. So Lord Kṛṣṇa has 64 attributes, principal attributes, and he is full in all of them. We also heard about the definition of Bhagwan that's given by Parashamani. So that's talking about 6 main attributes, right? Aishvaryasya samagrasya viryasya yasha shriya jnana vairagayascha sannam bhagaiti gana. So Parashamani, father of Srila Vyasadeva, gives the definition, who is Bhagwan, right? Who can we call Bhagwan? So he is saying one who is full in all riches, Aishvaryasya. Samagrasya means 100%. Full in Yasha, all famous, and then he is all famous, Yasha, Shriya, who is all beautiful. Gyan, beauty, and Vairagya. He is full in all these aspects. So one who is full in all 6 opulences is Bhagwan. So that's the definition of Bhagwan. And Lord Kṛṣṇa has unlimited potencies. He has also internal potencies, external potencies, and unlimited potencies. And of those principal potencies, attributes, he has 64 of the principal attributes. And Brahma can only have 50, up to 50 of those attributes. That's his limit. So living entities in Brahma, we can only have up to 50. And then above us is Lord Shiva, who can go 84%. He can have up to 55 of the principal attributes out of 64. Then above him, 5 more attributes Lord Vishnu has. So he can have 93% of Lord Krishna's principal attributes. So he can have 60. Well, Lord Krishna has 64. Now the question arises, what are the principal attributes that even Lord Vishnu doesn't have that Lord Krishna has? Then these 4 attributes of Lord Krishna are Leela Madhurya, the first one. So Lord Krishna has such amorous, beautiful pastimes, the Leelas that he performs, the various loving exchanges he performs with his devotees. So that is something he has, even Lord Vishnu doesn't have. Then the second one is Bhakta Madhurya. He is having these loving exchanges with his devotees. The kind of exchanges he has is completely devoid of awe and reverence. And in Damodar month, Kartik month, we saw as how Mother Yashoda, she takes that higher position, and such a loving exchange where Lord agrees to be bound by the unlimited love of Mother Yashoda. She is a, eternal associate of the Lordship in a Jiva Tattva category, but at the same time, and again, Acharyas have explained that, some Acharyas have said that she is actually in the Vishnu Tattva category, some have said that in Jiva Tattva. Nevertheless, she is a devotee of the Lord, and without awe and reverence, she is serving the Lordship with so much love that she is able to bind love with her love, the ropes that she is able to bind. Then comes Venu Madhurya. Lord Krishna, he is playing his flute to attract all the living entities. He is not just attracting the residents of Vrindavan, he is attracting all of our hearts. That's why Srila Rupa Goswami says that, the gopis are discussing, oh my dear friend, if you don't want to get bewildered, don't go to that Yamunata, don't go to the Vamshivata, don't hear, because there's this dark boy, Krishna, he's playing on his flute, and once you hear his flute, then all your material aspirations are nullified. So there are various commentaries also given, various teachings also given by Acharyas on this, that this is a way Lord Krishna is calling us with the sound of his flute. And the 5th note of his flute is so sweet that all the gopis, they forget whatever they are doing, they just rush to see Lord Shri Krishna. So Venu Madhurya. And then the 4th one is Rupa Madhurya. He is so beautiful that he can attract crores, 10 millions of cupids. So again we hear, as how Lord Krishna, he is, he attracts Madan, the Cupid, Kamdev. So that's why another name Lord Krishna has is of Madan Mohan. So who can attract? He who can attract the Cupid. And then Bhakti Devi is none other than incarnation of Radharani, Mother Radha. And she is known by the name Madan Mohan Mohini. So she is Sri Krishna Akarshani. She even attracts Lord Krishna. So when we take to the chanting of the holy name, when we take to this prayer that please, oh my dear Mother Radha, Hare, oh my dear Krishna, please engage me in your devotional service. This is very attractive to Lord Shri Krishna. And when we do it in a prayerful mood, in a humble mood, calling out from our heart, then Lord, he hears our plea and he feels like, yes, this is a devotee who is eager to come to me. Let me bless him. And so in our life, he sends us opportunities to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, to follow the process. He opens all the gates so that we can easily go back home, back to Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada used to give this example. If you follow Varnashram Dharma, that's like taking staircase to the 50th floor. It's very difficult, going from floor to floor, and at every floor, to get to the next floor, you have to go through the gatekeeper. While this process of devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, is so easy. It's like having an elevator. You get into the elevator, press the button for the top floor, and it just reaches the top floor. All we have to do is press that button and keep it always on. It should not turn off. And to do that is always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna, which simply starts with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now comes the last question. The last question of the sages was that after Lord Krishna has left this material world, he has gone back to his abode, when he has returned to Golok Vrindavan, whose shelter has the religion taken? Where has Dharma gone? Where can we find Dharma? So, this is where, this is answered in this particular chapter. In the 43rd verse, Krishne swadhamo padyate dharma jnana dibhi saha kalo nashta drisham mesha puranarko adhnodhita. Sutta Goswami is revealing that this Bhagavad Puran is as brilliant as the sun, which has arisen right after the return of Lord Krishna back to his abode, along with who? Personified religion, knowledge, etc. Dharma, religion, Gyan, knowledge, Adibhi Saha, along with all these great qualities, they have all departed. And Kalo Nashtam Drishamesha, and the people who have lost their sight in the darkness of this Kali age, in this age of ignorance, in this iron age, they will get light from this Purana. Purana ko adhnodita. They will get this from this Amal Puran in this age. So that is where religion has taken shelter. So that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is also called literary incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna. So Lord Krishna in this age appears in three forms that we can directly see him. All we need to do is build up a qualification gradually, with proper understanding, so we can relate to him. First is chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Nama Chintamani Krishna sa Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta Abhinatvam Nama Namino. Nama Chintamani Krishna. Lord Krishna's name is Chintamani, touchstone. It's a desire stone. It can deliver whatever we desire. And it is Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. He has imbued all his potencies in his name. All the potencies of Lord Shri Krishna, the 64 principal attributes, actually unlimited potencies are there along with these 64 principal attributes in the name. And Purna Shuddha, it can completely purify us. And Nitya Mukta, it can completely liberate us from the clutches of this Maya, the three modes of material nature. Abhinatvam Nam Namino. The person who is named and the name itself are not different. So when we chant the holy name, Lord Krishna and Radharani, they are dancing on our tongue. Acharya has revealed to us that this is where Lord Krishna is performing his Rasa Leela on our tongue. What can be more beautiful than that? Because people want to see Rasa Leela. We experience Rasa Leela when we chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. The second way Lord incarnates is the Archa Vigraha form. The deities in the temples and the deities that we establish at homes, in the temples that we worship, we serve on a daily basis. And third is the literary incarnation, Srimad Bhagavatam. So right there we have a wonderful opportunity. And when we study Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna says that we are worshipping him by our intelligence. And we know from Bhagavad Gita, above senses is mind, above mind is intelligence, and above intelligence is the soul. So we ourselves, along with our intelligence, and always engaging our senses and mind, we can just worship him day and night. So that should be the mood. So this is where he has finished answering the 6 questions in the 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna is the source of all incarnation. And this is where we end. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining us. It has been so wonderful, so enlivening to discuss the glories of the holy name, the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, and glories of Lord Krishna and his multifarious incarnations. Kadra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.